introducing Slavimir Futro. I know him by another name, and I think he may explain this to us,
of course.
phenomenon tonight. I'm just going to say 2 words. I want to express my delight at having Slavimir here. We've had complaints that, you know, all the people from Ljubljana are in June, so Nemanja figured out how to resolve this problem brilliantly and brought in probably the coolest guy from Ljubljana. So now we're going to get complaints from the people in Ljubljana. What's going on? How come the cool people are in there in August? Anyway, I'm really delighted. It's great to have a practitioner in the design arts. I love it when we can add people from the arts in this way. So it's wonderful to have you, Slavimir, for this first time. Let's look forward to a collaboration to follow.
Thank you.
And let me just allow Nemanja to say a few more words on this.
So, for me, it's a great honor to have someone like Slavimir here, because people in Serbia, people in former Yugoslavia, we all know his designs, he's ever present. But also, what's most important is that in the past couple of years, Slavimir opened a new career, which will be presented here as a writer and illustrator of a phenomenal children's book, and most importantly, autobiographical novel, 9, that will be also presented tonight.
Yes.
So it's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and I'm really honored and delighted to be here. It's a big deal for me and for people from the Balkan region to be among such amazing people here. This presentation will be more, as Nemanja said, more autobiographical, more of a practitioner's presentation, not that much theory, but more of a real-life stuff. So this is what my company called Futro Design do. We produce faces for our clients. We do logotypes, identity designs, branding, and everything for really a lot of them. So I've been doing this for 35 years, actually, and it's been more than 1,000 projects like this. And it's a lot of them. So my job is to create visual stories for my clients, which now expanded also into creative communication, not only the visual stories, but also the verbal and things with words. So some of the logos you may recognize, because most of these projects are from the former Yugoslavia region. I'm working mostly there, but some clients are in Europe and also States. But that's actually something that you, as every graphic design, you basically don't notice that. If you're not a person from that expertise, you never notice that. So my idea of tonight's presentation is to show you what actually stands behind all of these things that most of the people don't notice, and how to inject your own personal aura and creativity into things like this. For some people, very important, for clients, obviously, and for some of the consumers. And what we actually do is applied art. If you don't have art in yourself, then you will not have anything to apply. That's the thing that I always say to my students also. It's very important to build up inside world. Everyone who is working in creative industry knows that without that there is no job, actually. But it all started on this. It was very important date for my life. It's when I was born. It was the 7th of January in '69. So I'm 50 years old now. I don't believe it either. But and I definitely don't act like that. But it's been 50 years, and the biggest thing about this date is it's a Orthodox Christian Christmas. So I was supposed to be called Božidar, which in Serbian means God's gift. But the stronger part of the family, the partisans, were atheists, so they didn't allow it to be that name. So it was mother's father. He was a colonel in partisan army. So he said, no way, he's going to be called Slavimir. Slavimir means celebrate peace, which is also kind of nice. But it's usually for older people, you know. It's not the name that you give a kid. But what can you do? These are my parents. They were 19 when they got me. They were high school sweethearts. They started dating when they were 13 years old. And I came as a mistake, definitely. It's not planned. But they decided to keep me somehow. And my mother was studying economy. She was just starting to study. And my father was studying geology. And what happened is that I was born in Belgrade. That was the capital of former Yugoslavia. I don't know how much of you know about Yugoslavia, but that was some kind of experiment, actually. You know, the same type of people, the same nation, but different nationalities, different religion put together, aggressively put together. Not necessarily that all of them wanted that. So there was, in each nation, there was a half that didn't want, half that wanted, you know. So, but at the end, you know, it broke up bloody in the 90s, and it was really a big disaster, definitely. But growing up in this country was really fantastic. As a kid, you don't know anything about the politics, about anything. You know, you just know that you're part of 22 million people country, and that you're part of Europe. You don't ever think that you're a third kind or something, you know. And the father of the nation was Tito, Josip Broz Tito. Maybe some of you know of him. But as everyone, we all in Yugoslavia, we have this, you know, like cult of personality, and we always need one to lead us. You know, it's not. I don't think that's definitely okay. But before him, there was King Alexander. He was a Serb. Tito was Croat, and you know, this Serb guy was a king, but because we were one of the countries that won the war in the First World War. So that's how Yugoslavia actually happened. First, it started as a kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenians. And then it expanded after the Second World War into Yugoslavia with 6 different republics. But you know, why I was showing you these leaders is that this part of my family, my mother's, Liliana was her name, is partisans, Tito. And my father's part of the family were royalists. They would like king to come back after the Second World War. So when you're young, you don't know that, of course, but definitely that tension was never felt in my family, but it was felt outside of the family. You know, this. So, and that tension is very, very strong in each single personality in the Balkans. And that's this inner conflict is so strong that, you know, we go to war every now and then. So it's first of all, it's a war with your own self. And then if you cannot manage yourself, then let's go kill somebody else, you know. So that's how it happened. But definitely my parents, Liliana and Momčilo was my father's name, is my father's name. They really didn't know what to do with kids, you know. They were very, very young and very inexperienced. And actually, they were also making love very frequently. So my brother was coming to be born, and they just launched me to 7,500 kilometers away to Washington. I was 3 years old. I had to fly on my own. I was flying alone in a plane. I'm never going in a plane sober now when I'm old, because it's a very, very traumatic thing. My grandparents, the colonel I told you about, lived in Washington because she was the one, the main one, Stana and Miloš. Stana was my grandmother. She was working for the embassy of Yugoslavia. They were both partisans in the war, decorated and stuff like that. But she was actually a spy. That's really ridiculous, but she was a spy, and we knew that she told us that few days before she died, just a couple of years ago. Nobody knew that, and she was a spy all of her life. So it's ridiculous. She was working in Iran, in Morocco, in Netherlands, in wherever else in Europe, and her major thing in career was to live and work in Washington. So I was a kid living with them. I was quite cute, but nobody took care of me because they were all working and having fun. So I was really, really alone all the time. That's what I remember. And I was without my parents when I was 3 and 4 years old. I stayed there for more than a year. And I didn't know what really, I remember that now, but at that point, of course, you don't recognize anything. I went to kindergarten there, and I went to international school and learned English somehow. But what I wanted to do, I felt like I need to express myself, and I started painting. And my first painting when I was 3 years old was this. So it's really cool, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I painted my best friend from the kindergarten, Steven. Steven is a really good person now. And this was my first love, Nancy. But when I started to do something more with the thematically, they just took away all the painting tools from me. So I had to start writing. So I changed the name and I started writing, and I did this at that point of my life. And it was a success. And then I went back to Yugoslavia, again, 7,500 kilometers back. I forgot my parents. I didn't know how they looked like. I forgot them. I completely erased them from my memory in my head. And this guy, my brother Nebojša, took my place. So I felt like a satellite most of my childhood. I felt like I was out of the game. So that's how the whole story about communication and trying to prove that I'm worthy of whatever, love or whatever, started. And this one of the examples. In Belgrade, the city center is around these 2 rivers. And my parents were, my mother actually was working at Karaburma. It's a workers' place, far away from the city. And she worked there just for 6 months. And she took me to the primary school there because it was easy for her not to prepare me when I was a kid, Let's go with me by bus, 7 stations. Go with bus and you go to the school. It's just across the street from my work. But 6 months later, she gets this, how do you say, job transfer to the center of the city. And they left me to go alone to this school all of next 8 years. So when I grew up, I said, why the hell did you let me go alone 8 years to this school? And they said it was a great teacher. I said, how the teacher was great? And they said, you had all straight A's. So, it was, they were very young. But for it to be even worse, they put my brother there because the teacher is so good. So my brother went also together with me. He's 4 years younger. He went together with me there, but he had the worst possible grades. Because it was the same teacher that after 4 years, we rotate the teachers. The same teacher on the first, because he was the devil, completely very cute, but the devil. And the teacher said, how come this genius boy like Slavimir has this idiot brother, in front of the whole. So my brother, of course, became a junkie later on in his life, But these things definitely change you when you're a kid, I'm talking about it even more than I should, but it's defining the life later on. what happened actually, because I was definitely feeling safer on the street, not in the house. I mean, I felt welcome, but I didn't fit in, of course. I was a satellite. But the main thing with me was that I found myself very easily immersed into hip-hop culture when I was a kid. And it was in 79, 80 around when it came to Serbia. Hip-hop culture, maybe some of you know, but it's something for the underdogs to try to become somebody very easily through their own talent, even if it's writing rap songs, rapping, or mixing music, or painting on the walls, graffiti, whatever. So it's very expressive. It's very easy to get hooked on it because you don't belong to anyone like me. So my street name was Be Wild, and this was my first rap song that I did. So it said, "Hello everybody, how do you do?" Well, this is a rap from me to you. But before I get down, I start to rap. I'd like to introduce myself. Be Wild is my name. All around this world, I am famous. BWILDE. That's my spell, as you can see. When I rock your body, you never have enough. Always want some more of that crazy stuff. When you wake up in the morning, you see I've gone. Check it out, girl. You're all alone. But I was 12, and I was Be Wild, you know. And I had all straight A's in my. So it doesn't have anything to do with reality. And that's what hip hop did to me. I realized, okay, I can be one thing outside of my creative output. So, you know, I knew how to transfer something from the inside to the outside and to keep it at the distance. And my first encounter with the graphic design was actually this single. My uncle brought it for me, and I was, you know, nobody had these singles, and you give them to the DJ at the party, and you know this moment in movies when all the music suddenly stops, you know. And I was giving this to the DJ, and he said, "What's this?" And you know, "Who is this? What's this band?" And I said immediately, "Key 44." That was I was really convinced, but nobody told me that's, you know, it's Kiss. You know, I was trying to be very smart and to decipher what is here. Because we knew that Nazis had this SS, and I was, you know, all these partisan movies that I was watching when I was a kid, you know, what idiot would put this SS from the fascist into the logo? So it must mean something else, you know. So it's that was my first encounter with graphic design. But then later on, I started to draw much more, and I prepared myself for the high school. We have a high school which is really perfect. When you're 14, 15, you can enroll into high school as a 2 to 4 years preparation for the academy later on. So I was drawing a lot of caricatures and stuff like that to make people laugh in the class and stuff like that. But this was the first drawing in the preparation day for entering this school, and this is just a couple of months later. So it's you know, my father, who never finished his geology, and my mother, they just took off from the faculties because I was born. So they never finished it. And you know, he started working at the gas station, which he worked for the whole of his life, because they got me too young, you know. And he started crying when he saw this. And I said, "Okay, Father, why are you crying?" He said, "We're going to be rich." I said, "How?" He said, "I can see through the bottle." So, you know, he thought it's a magic, you know, something I did so you can see through them. I mean, it's ridiculous. But that was their knowledge about art. And this was the first actually serious poster that I got an award for it. It was an open contest. I was still in the high school, and it was for the political school. Political schools in the former socialist countries were something that they recruit the new left-wing people, you know, this kind of thought. And I didn't know anything about it, about politics, anything, but I knew that school is supposed to get the screws out of your head. So that was the narrative of this poster. Somebody there liked it, and in the true spirit of socialism, I took my prize, sat on the train. I was 16, I think, then. Sat on the train and went to Trieste, to Italy, and bought a pair of All-Stars, which you couldn't buy in the 80s in Serbia. So that was the socialism for me, you know. All-Stars, Trieste, and political school. Before I went to Gothenburg in Sweden, I applied for, it was a long life, you know, like dream that I had to finish the academy in Belgrade. It was a big deal. It was like 200 people enrolled, and only 8 of us were in. So, you know, it was the big thing that for me. But after 4 years of studying, Yugoslavia started to dissolve, and I just realized that I should go somewhere. And my uncle lived in Gothenburg, and I went to him and met this guy at the academy there, at the academy in Gothenburg, Hans Christer Eriksson. He's real life Santa Claus, so warm, so it's really fantastic human being. And I was there living I didn't have any money. I was drawing caricatures on the street. That was what I was living off. But after only 2 months, sanctions against Yugoslavia were out there. So I couldn't, as a Yugoslav citizen, I couldn't finish the academy there. And I had to go back. My visa expired immediately and stuff like that. So it was ridiculous. I was a Yugoslav person. I wasn't a Serbian fanatic and whatever. But anyway, he went to police with me together with the dean of the school, and they went all together with a petition of all the students to keep me there, not to go back to Balkans and to the war, actually. But the police said we cannot do anything. So I really was kicked out of the school. But what he said, he told me as a real Santa Claus, you know, he said, you are not going anywhere. You'll stay here on my own, you know. I'll protect you. You will be my student. You will never finish. You know, you don't have papers, but you come here and study every day. That's what I did for the whole year, you know. And after a year, I went back to Belgrade and got this red stamp in my passport, so never to come back here. They told me on the, you know, this police officer in the customs, they said, "Are you crazy? What have you done?" I said, "I'm sorry, I had to, you know, I had to learn design." But while I was there, I was actually drawing illustrations on the street, and this is supposed to be Sylvester Stallone, or I don't know, Ronald Reagan or Madonna, stuff like that. But as a stylization, this is something that takes you an hour, 2 hours. It's not the typical street caricatures that you get in 5 minutes. So whoever sit in front of me is going to sit there for 2 hours, because I didn't know how to do it differently than this kind of stylization. And the biggest, actually the biggest part of my education, not only there, but anywhere in my life, was when the crowd just gathers there and you're drawing real life, and you see after 5-10 minutes that you missed everything. That's it completely wrong. It doesn't look like that. It's not that what you're drawing. And you take the eraser and start erasing in front of all of these people. And the signals that you get, you know, the ooh, everything. That's the biggest schooling as I ever had in my life. Going through that, everything else is piece of cake. I went back to Belgrade. I was quite a good student, definitely. I had my own portfolio, which was okay, and people from such and such in Belgrade employed me very early. I was 23 and already was a design director for the whole Balkan region. And I started working on advertising projects, which definitely weren't that rooted into market and real it wasn't advertising for the clients or for the market to better sell, but more to sell myself, the company, the agency. It's like a self-promotional advertising, because the economy wasn't there. It was really low and bad. And then I did a couple of logos like this one for the basement gallery. So of course I don't have to explain it because it speaks for itself. And it's the first thing that really got some awards abroad and bring me to another part of the Belgrade intellectual side of people who were around the New Moment magazine, which was a magazine for art and advertising, but very, very philosophical, very theoretical, and it was a big deal being a part of that young, and they really let us do whatever we wanted. I was there with two other friends of mine, designers, Goran Patlej and Milo Šilić, and they give us open hands, whatever we wanted to do. At that time, in the design world worldwide, was deconstructivism. The technology started to kick in, and David Carson and people like that were just working on a deconstructivism. And we had this constructivism background in the Balkan region, of course influenced by the Russian avant-garde and also by the Zenithism in the 20s and Dadaism and things like that. So it was easy for us because we were used to images like this. You just put it like all together like a picture, like a painting. So it was really enjoying those times. And also this magazine got awarded because it was something that was happening in the world at that time, and nobody believed that in Balkan somebody is doing things like this. Also, there was a radio B92 which was opposed to. I did this logo, but it was opposed to the dictatorship of Slobodan Milošević. So, I was slowly becoming a part of this country culture in Belgrade, doing a lot of logos and everything for different, of course, companies and institutions, but also the CD covers for the most important bands and stuff like that. So I was, underground name was building up, even though I was working in advertising, And then my work caught the eye of Oliver Belopeta, who is owner of Skopje Jazz Festival, and he invited me to start working on every year on his posters for. And actually, this is the first poster that got me international recognition. And my idea was that every single year I will give myself a task that I will illustrate. The task, I mean the theme. And here is the theme is virtuosity. So, I was trying to, for example, in 2000, the idea was improvisation. Things that are relating to jazz as a music, So just one gesture out of the ordinary, out of the structure, that's what the jazz is, But of course, you have to know the structure before you deconstruct it. Also this one, which is also about deconstruction, actually, in 2006. And each year I did things like that. But the funny side of the advertising business was things like this. For example, for Fair of Technics in Belgrade, I did this poster. And a couple of days later, when the fair was open, the main chief of the fair is calling me and said, "Slavimir, what have you done to us?" I said, "What?" He said, No. The image is perfect, beautiful, everybody's talking about it. But also, everyone is asking where the stand with this hammer is. They want to buy it. So I would really like to see how people think that this will work, But anyway, that was the typical. Also, this one, the poster for Waiting for Godot. I hope most of you know what's happening in that play. But the printer called me and said, "Oh, you have a typo there." I said, "What happened?" He said, "No, but the letter T ran away." I said, No, let it be there. No, I'm not printing anything with typo. I will be, accused later on. I said, "No, please type it." No, how is it? And it took half an hour, and I had to explain the whole play. And he said, "Oh, cool, then, okay." And this project for Sony Walkman was the closure of the whole story with the Sweden and the minimalism and everything. This was in '97 or something like that. And I got the biggest award in Europe called Epica for this one. And the Epica is a festival that it's every single year it's in a different capital of some European country. And that year it was in Stockholm, so in Sweden. So I had to travel to collect it. But my red passport, visa, I cannot go. So I got drunk so heavily, and I burned my passport when I was drunk with my friends. Out of total despair, I didn't know what to do. But in the morning, I said, I was really not feeling well. But I told the people from the such and such a company, I don't have a passport, I cannot travel. But they fixed it in one day, and nothing was digital in '97, so I could travel easy. And I went there, and going up to that, stage with the award, it was really a good feeling after not allowing me to finish the school. And, it was a big deal for me at that time. In '99, after the bombing of Belgrade, there was no design job, definitely. So I had to move somewhere, and I got the offer from Ljubljana. Ljubljana is the capital of former, most northern republic. Ljubljana is Slovenia, you heard of Slovenia, I hope. And it's the most developed former republic of Yugoslavia. So they have a good design scene there. So I just had to continue what I was doing. For example, I did this poster advertising for the Duracell Plus batteries that really last very long. So that's, and then at that point in the world, what was happening, it was no copy advertising without text. So sublimation of the message in just one single picture that combines different elements of communication. So it's something that I really mastered, and I really wanted to work like that, like influenced by Swedish minimalism, Scandinavian, that I was influenced in Gothenburg, and bringing some local humor or whatever. And I worked on a couple of very important magazines of the modern gallery in Ljubljana called MRs, which got me again this prestigious awards there and stuff like that. And my oculist, or how do you say, the guy who makes me glasses, this is the campaign for him. Actually, what happens when you don't see. This is also... I know, it's ridiculous. This is, again... And in Ljubljana, what happened is that was the first time that I realized that I don't need to communicate just the things that were ordered from me, from clients, to just be an applied artist. I was invited to design a poster for Magdalena Youth Visual Communications Festival, and the theme was redesign of meaning. So that was the big thing then in the beginning of 2000. It was in 2002. And what I did is I just took ordinary pictograms that most of us know what they mean and put random words under it. So this decontextualization of something that is there that is now giving it a whole new meaning. And that opened completely the new door for me to experiment with that. See one picture, another thing is, it's very simple, of course, tool, but it works very, very well if you master it. And that became one of my first projects that were like, now I can say, okay, I have this artistic thing in my work. This is the logo, the poster for Vale Novak bookstore, the really important bookstore in Ljubljana. And of course, there is no difference between left and right. It just says change your inside. read books at Vale Novak. And also taking this vintage idiotic photography works quite well. And one day I was in Ljubljana, I was approached by two brothers called Lisac and Lisac. Lisac means fox in Slovenian. So their company name is Fox and Fox, and they are publishers, independent publishers. So it was really big deal for me. I wanted to do this as good as I can, and because they're really nice people also, and I like to read books. And I was thinking that this, Fox is very similar to this and symbol, and it's the letter symbol that it's synonymous to publishing, definitely. So I combined that together and I got this. And this won one of the biggest awards in the world, actually in New York, in Type Directors Club. I was really, really proud of that. And it works also today. That was, I think, about 15 years ago. But at the same time, inspired by this project for Magdalena, I started thinking to work on my own publishing, to do something that is more off the grid of commercial work. So I teamed up with a friend of mine, Ivan Ilic, who finished the academy at Yanis Kuneli's class in Düsseldorf. He's a fine artist and also conceptual artist, but also a great editor. So we teamed up together to produce this Futro fanzine for a year. Each month we produced a new print. It was both sides, printed A2 format, and it all had something to do with one side with another. So it's some kind of correlation. It's quite hermetic, but still it's something that I needed to do in order to keep my business running smoothly, not to interfere this artistic side with the commercial. But that's when I started also to write some things that are not ordered from me. So I did this called Futro stories, like loading, please wait another year or two, or like illustrated stories. I lost my dream today. I find it very difficult to live without it. I hope it gets back someday. And when it does, I'll tie it to my foot and never let it go again. Or much better, thank you. Well, there is nothing in this book, only letters. Last night I decided to talk to myself. I waited for an hour. No one showed up. Today I witnessed the birth of an idea directly from my brain. When I'm hurt, I cry only on one eye. That is keeping me aware of the rest of the universe. So this kind of, now actually the language started to develop, and I know that it was quite ironic, cynical, and I knew that it now is happening, and it's my actually reaction to my commercial work and the world that is surrounding me. I definitely knew that nothing is right in the commercial world, and I needed to address it somehow. So this was instinctive things, to write something, illustrate it, give it out, inspire people. Maybe somebody will laugh, somebody will cry, or whatever, but just to get some emotional response. After 10 years, I went back to Belgrade and again started to collect awards and stuff like that. It's very important for the business in our region. And I did this for the office design store called Works. I did this couple of images. This office design store just imports the design furniture from Italy, from different producers. And again, like with the optician, I did what happens if there is no furniture, how ridiculous it would be. And like chairs or like a meeting room, for example. And it was very hard to convince these models to do this, because they would say, we're not looking nice, we're looking stupid, we are beautiful people, don't do this to us. So I had to, it's not normal in Serbia to just tell people to look ridiculous. And then I started working on the projects for Yugoslav Drama Theater in Belgrade, pro bono, for free, just to try to give something back to the society while I was with one foot in the commercial world. And my first task was a poster for a play called Born in Yugoslavia. It's about people who were born in Yugoslavia, but what's happening with, it's actually about my generation. What's happening with us now that is dissolved, and how are we coping with the identity that we have to forget and invent our own new identity. Now we're all Serbs, nobody's Yugoslavian anymore. So it concerns all the nations in the former Yugoslavia. And I split my head with this project. I was really trying my best because it's the theme that hurts me the most. So I wanted to give my best. And after 2 weeks, I usually come up with the idea in a couple of hours. But this time it was 2 weeks of absolute agony, And then I realized that I have it all the time in front of myself. For some people, this is a communist symbol, but for us, from Yugoslavia, it transcends. It doesn't have to do anything with the communism or socialism. It has to do with togetherness. This kind of, the emotion that we get, the brotherhood and unity. What was the name claim of that country? And I took out that actually, and this was the poster. So what happens in the aftermath is that there are scars, there are, something is left there, which is for some people painful, for some people there are happy thoughts, but it's there. It's never going to be filled with color. It's always going to be a part of your identity. It's going to be never perfect. This new identity. So I was very, very proud of this project. And the very, very simple. For lazy people, it's beautiful, It's a very simple thing. I did this in 10 minutes, actually, in Illustrator. And then I did a lot of posters for them on the same level of this iconic, just illustrating the name of the theater play. This was Nowhere for Now. This one is a drama about Mirjana and those around her. This is the Sky Squad about the prisoners in Auschwitz, and a very heavy play. This is Hysteria about Sigmund Freud and Salvador Dali locked in a room together. So you can imagine. This is the play called Death is Not a Bicycle, So It Can Be Stolen. But as you can see, I treated this as a logo, actually, as an enlarged logo, as something from the branding area. This is from Marina Carr, very famous, In the Bog of Cats, very famous play, or James Joyce, Exiles. So I just took out 2 and 8, so 2 numbers are exiled from the flock. And then, of course, I forgot, what was the more important stuff is my personal life. I was very, very immersed into design and becoming as great as I could and produce work that is memorable and stuff like that. So I really forgot about my heart, and an empty heart weighs 10 tons, So it was becoming very hard to live without, filling it with something, My heart was completely empty. And then my Olja showed up, and I was looking for her for 40 years, so she better be good, and she was really. She knew how to dance with me. I'm very hard to dance with. I was a professional, Be wild, it's very hard. But then I was able, when I met her, I was able to produce things like this. Like she asked, would you die for love? He answered, for love, no, for you, yes. So the sounds of the violins should be now somewhere in the background. But I know it sounds pathetic, but for most of the people, I just realized that I don't need to be always in this smart mode of communication. So you have to sometimes be natural, but I forgot that. But it all came back when this was born. Our daughter Nadia was born very soon after we got married, and it completely changed my life. I know it's a cliche, but what happened to me that before that I was always thinking that I was not enough or that I was too much. I was just between those two. It was very hard to live with myself. But when she was born, somehow everything came into one single fantastic, perspective. But what happened then is that I said, okay, now everything is in balance, but the world is not right. It's too much bad things happening. So I immediately started, like instinctively, I started to work on projects that matter, not only to sell myself to become a better designer or whatever, but to have some impact on the society where I live. And then I did this poster for a panel discussion called The Seed. It's about the uprising of fascism, racism, and ethnic hatred in the Balkan region again. It was just like in 2010 or something. And what I did is, I don't know if you see swastika here. It's the small swastika, which has to be monitored so we don't let it grow again, because if it grows, it will be again Third Reich, So the idea with the poster is that it's a microorganism, the seed of the evil that could again grow. So I said, okay, let's do things like this more in my life. But it's a thin line between the smart things and the over the top, over that edge. It's very thin line to become banal. And then I made this exhibition, which was actually very well received, but it was over the line. It's called "You Are an Idiot, Please Act Accordingly." And I put these posters in 40 places in the center of Belgrade. And of course, some of the older people just said, okay, what is this again? Americans are bombing us, or whatever. But most of the people, it really worked. It was 1,500 people at the opening of the show. It was at the cultural center of Belgrade. It was a huge thing for us. It's in only 12 days, how long it lasted, it was all seen by 7,000 people, which is for us, you get a couple of hundred when you have a show. But that was huge. Of course, because of the provocative title. And I was very proud. It was just in front of the National Assembly, or how do you say, Parliament building. So it stayed there for 3 months after, because they didn't have anything to put over it. There was no other exhibitions in the city. There was no money, So they left this, and nobody was bothered with it, of those inside of that house. So, but the exhibition was consisting about more than 100 pieces, which one of them was this like a life-size self-portrait. It took me a while to produce it. And also a couple of things that just playing like system error, playing with some things that we know, or this mirror that says I will lie again and connected to the satellite. It's very precise timing. Or this black bed with the tomb here that says never sleep, alone tonight again. But, this alone tonight again was just lighting up. Or this clock, digital clock going twice the speed, like this. It's impossible to look at it after 20 seconds, because seconds are going like, and you cannot stand watching it. So it says, of course, wait. Or this hang time, we made this out of plaster with a very good sculptor, a friend of mine. And it was there was an anecdote with this, with the cleaning lady in the morning. She almost got a heart attack when she, after the opening of the show, when they put the lights on, and she saw that. And this chair was maybe my favorite part. Now they are producing this chair for the how do you say, sculpture in the open space. It's going to be produced in metal. And it says, on one side, it says, she said, I love you. I said, good luck on this side. So this is how it works, actually. And then, as you can see, the irony is now building up a lot in my work, and especially this artistic side. And it's building, and I'm mastering it, and I know that I can use some of it in my commercial work. So I feel confident and okay. I know that we are now living, the whole planet is now living in a ironical discourse. And what can you do? You have to master that in order to be a part of that world, or to try to change it somehow. But I didn't know how the change is going to come. I started with the Futro lifestyle brand first. Futro is a short of future and retro. So it comes out of this philosophy that I really believe in. The Futro is now, so you should live today. So forget yesterday, remember tomorrow, live today. That's a Futro everyday joy formula. And in a way, it's playing with things, funny, but in a way, it's also very, very serious. You have to think about it. So it's for the people who think with their own heads, not for the flock people, and which I communicate with in my commercial work. So it's inside, it's always conflicting, And we opened the store with all of these items, selling them and stuff. And it was really cool. Most of the students of design were buying those, like warning fear in 20 seconds, or burn your flags and start using ours. Stuff like that, And it worked quite well. For example, this notebook, I said, everything I touch is gold. The other one says, I will lie again. And I made a small advertising campaign. This is my Nadia. She says, I love Futro not because it's so smart and so cool, but because it's my father's idea. Or this guy, Lauren Jackson, 68, from Nashville. Since I'm using Futro products, my life is wonderful and my hair became more dense. And this was the complete hit of our store. I left my brain at home today. It is much easier at work now, and I met some really smart people. So irony level 100. Or this love one, today doctors discovered I have 2 hearts. They're both ticking for you. Or this, I'm super. Or Britney Houston, that one was a hit. Or this one, this is truth you can see only if you look at the mirror. So it's I like that one a lot. We made also T-shirts and stuff, and so when you actually look yourself at the mirror, you see the truth. And I produced a couple of these posters that are actually still selling. We closed the store down because it's too expensive to have it in Belgrade right now, so we are planning on making a web store, but these posters are going very, very well. So I'll keep producing this as just one foot in this ironic discourse. This is a portrait of, how do you say, ultra optimist. So this one says half full here. Or this one, on, off. Or this one way. There is no way, actually. You have to go around to get your peace of mind. Or this one, it's a sign of the times, definitely. Nothing really matters, but everything is very important. Or this poster says, portrait of the sun from behind. Or this, where's your head? I thought you have it. And then for some Belgian internet portal, I wrote this as a statement. Story. It says, life is a very, very serious thing. I think we should all wear black and not talk to each other at all. That way we can learn more about ourselves. Also, we should cry more. That way we wash our eyes so we can see better. Seeing is believing. I believe we should stop smiling. It gets on other normal people's nerves. Maybe we should sleep all the time, but not dream. Dreams are so last week. Otherwise, I'm cool. So that's, that was the end of the whole, this wave of irony that was started off with the birth of my daughter, actually. So it just developed so much that I couldn't control it in myself anymore. I became toxic myself. So I realized that I need to change something. And then out of the blue came one phone call from The Hague. And, there's this war tribunal there. So if you're a Serb and somebody calls you from The Hague, it's not nice, Usually we go to jail there. But they didn't invite me because of that. They invited me for the Flag of Peace project, which was also funny to invite a Serb, but again, cool. And that was the first time that I realized that I have to, if this is so serious, 40 people, the best designers in the world, really, which I look up to all of my life, were also there on the list. So I was very honored to be part of that. And I said, okay, I will do this, but without a single trace of irony. But how can you do that? Because my language became irony. I cannot produce anything that's not ironic. And I will not be smart, and I will be, like banal. So it took me 2 months, actually, to rediscover what I really mean when I think about the peace, and also to put it as a symbol, simple for the flag. Of course, not all the 40 people of the invited were so much into making it non-ironic. Most of them actually did it very ironic, because actually there is no peace in the world. But still, again, I wanted to fight that process of ironization of everything. So I realized that I have to look deeper into myself and say, when I am peaceful myself, what is peace for me as a person? So the peace is when I'm in balance with myself, with my all extremes that I have in my person. So I said, okay, but how will I just now produce it as a visual? So I came up just with the simplest possible form. Like, it's nature, it's a sky, it's spiritual, it's natural, it's the perfect line forever in peace. It's complete balance, it's a globe, of course, it's our planet, and it's all on the white background as a symbol of giving up on violence. So it really looked as it's supposed to look, and I'm so proud of this work because it doesn't have any single trace of irony there. And it's a part of this huge exhibition that is now traveling all the world. Like, I don't know how many cities this has been in. This is from actually the first exhibition in The Hague, in Netherlands. But they do it in all the harboring cities all over the world. So it's a big deal for me, really. But then I realized that during this project, I realized, okay, I have to now work like this for a while, to make the balance with this poisonous part of my creative output before. So the next thing happened is this logo for a Porcelain Films from Belgrade, this independent production house for TV and film production. And also, as every single designer would start working on this with a teacup or something made of porcelain. But then I realized the letter P, if it's made of porcelain, if it falls down, if there is a time lapse, it reveals the letter F also. So this was the logo that again brought awards and stuff like that. So Porcelain Films, very proud of. And then, because I was playing football when I was a kid, a lot, and my father was also a national team, actually, football player before I was born. So he stopped playing when I was born, and I thought, okay, I will be now a super football player. But of course, nothing happened because I learned how to draw. But my dream was how to, to produce something for the football, for the sports. But again, without a trace of irony or putting the footballers there, like, superstars, come to the match. It's ridiculous. So I wanted to to do something graphically involving and demanding out of the football fans, who are considered to be not so smart, but most of them reacted fantastic on this. It was a match between Serbia and Republic of Ireland. Actually, people from the national organization of footballers in Ireland, they invited me to produce this. They always do this with every single country they go in. And I did this. I just confronted these two flags together and got this, a very typical thing for the football pitch. As you know, they just do the grass differently. But when you spread the typography, the letters there, they look like actually footballers. And this letter O just is a ball on the green background. So this is, again, something without any single trace of irony, but still full of life and celebration of life. That's what I wanted, not because my daughter was born and growing up, but I wanted to heal my soul from this poisonous discourse. Of course, sometimes it's very useful, but not as a main tool of your creative output. This is, for example, the shortest day festival of short movies. So I just did the short film tape. It's very, very simple. Or the poster for the Tolerance that is now traveling the world together with the international exhibition that was curated by Mirko Ilić, most famous designer from our parts of the world. He lives for years now in New York, and he gathered all the top designers, graphic designers of the world, and I'm honored to be part of that exhibition also. But then, as accumulation of these works that were awarded, came this exhibition in Museum of Applied Arts. I was actually quite young when it happened. It was just 2-3 years ago. But to have a retrospective at 47, it's early. But it happened to me, and it was. If someone of you is interested, here's this catalog. It's called Complicate Simply. I used another visual that I had in my Futro store. This kind of, again, some irony, but still playful. And it was a great night for my family, definitely. But after that, there was a sociological experiment done on me. That was in 2007. I was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award, which is really ridiculous when you're 48 years old. But there was no one else, actually, because most of the people left the country or whatever. It was too early, and it was an experiment, I think, that they want to see if it's possible that one person gets 2 Lifetime Achievements Award. I have some more years now. But what happened 2 weeks after that, I finished finally my school. So I became the first person who first got the award, a Lifetime Achievement Award, and then finished the academy. So I made it viral. Definitely, I put this, student, how do you say? Student ID. I put it on the Facebook, and what I got, and I put the story behind it, because I was studying. Actually, I enrolled when I was 18 years old. 30 years I studied, actually, because I didn't finish it in Gothenburg. And I tried 4 times to finish it, and I couldn't. So I just saw my child's first grades in in her book of grades, and I said, "This is ridiculous. I have to finish it because of her. Because how would she see me, And I finished it, and I put this story because of my parents who were never finishing it. So I finished it for them too. So it was quite a big thing, It's really, if you want to see it, you can just type Slavimir Fakultet, and you can get the translation there and check it out, because you have to have the tissue, tears are there all the time. Then after I finished the academy, I became a professor at the same academy. I'm teaching graphic communications there, and the first thing I did there is to edit and start the magazine called Plima, which means the tide in English, that goes out once a year in June. It's here. Some of you who are interested can take it later on. It's bilingual, so it's in English also. And I gather all the most talented people from the whole Serbia, from every single design school that we have in Serbia, from the whole country. And it looks like this, and it's really cool. I really like it, and they let me do whatever I want, so it's this dream projects. And some of the people that are really talented there, like this guy, Uroš Maksimović, he did this taxi driver poster and this one for tolerance, which I think it's really, really genius. I think it should be worldwide thing. Also other stuff from visual communications and stuff. But what actually definitely changed my discourse in my creative output was Cingulumba. Cingulumba is a invented character. Actually, this is my daughter, Nadia. And Nadia is a special kid. Actually, she likes to dance, of course, and she's not that she's interested in winning, but as her father, but she's 3 times the national champion and 2 times European champion in dancing. But she doesn't care. She gives me her medals, I keep them. And this is the first sketch for Cingulumba, for this invented character that I told her stories for a good night every day of her young life. And one day, after years of inventing all these stories, he said, "Daddy, can you draw this for me?" I said, oh, because I forgot how to draw. The last one that I drew was this Madonna and stuff like that, So my hand was not listening to me. So I tried really hard for 6 months to definitely try to produce something that is cute, And then, of course, there were some manga influences which were not good, and it was painstaking process. And once that I got this, because she has a good friend in the book, and when I got this here, I said, okay, it's cute enough, because I wanted not to be too cute like Disney or whatever too cute means, or to be ugly like all of these SpongeBobs and Rugrats and stuff like that came just like a reaction to the perfect world of Disney. So I wanted something in between. So I made that, and I made her best friend called Filippo Bibi. And the main premise of the book is that these 2 kids, together with their unique talents, produce miracles. So she knows how to draw, and she always draws a solution to a certain problem that they face. And then he plays the instrument looking at her drawings as a note, as a music notes. So he's inspired by her art, and then the magic happens. So the idea is there is no traces of irony again, just a pure, like normal stuff that should be taught to kids. But it all sounds now when I'm saying it sounds like archaic, something from the Frodo land, But actually it works. This is the first book. It also is in English, The Magic Pencil. And in the first book, Cingulumba tries to do the homework, which is to draw something, whatever she wants, and she don't know how to do it. And she thinks that the pencils are to blame, And then, of course, Filippo comes and they resolve somehow. I don't want to bother you too much with it. But the day when this came into the stores was one of the best days of my life, definitely, because it was something that I produced not as a a critique or comment on the contemporary world, but something from my healed soul. You know, and it worked for a lot of kids. What happened is that this book was awarded wherever we send it to any fair. A lot of kids just really sending me these pictures, you know, and it becomes a life of these kids. I was very, very proud. I gave a lecture about Cingulumba to Nadia's class, and they all got this. I was crying all day after that. It was really emotional thing. And Nadia, of course, knows how to draw it, and most of the kids do, and they send me all these pictures all the time. So it's another life from this commercial branding identities and stuff, but still helps me to bring them all together and say, okay, this is my creative output in my life. And this is when, you know, we gave together an interview and we got this award. So this is why I was born. Not to receive 300 awards or to do projects for my clients, but this was why I was born, to make this kid's life special. And not only hers, but all of the other kids. But what happened then is that this book was bought by Novak Djokovic, you know, the famous tennis player. So he saw it, and his wife Jelena saw it, and hopefully we are, in just a couple of days, we're having talks with Disney about it. I wrote 10 of those, and Novak Djokovic has this foundation for kids that he's investing millions of his own money, and he wants to produce something of even more international, to have Cingulumba as their brand through which they will collect more humanitarian help, which is, you know, I cannot be proud more than that, you know, it's really something special. And then at the end, I produced a book about my life. It was really natural because when I wrote this book for kids, I see the reactions, and I saw that there is a lot of things in me that I should produce, not as ordered from the client, but, you know, like self-initiated. And what actually happened in my life for real is that when I was 9 years old, I fell down and bumped my head playing football. I just slipped on some kind of piece of ice, and I fell directly on my head, and I lost the complete memory of my childhood from 0 to 9. I don't know what happened. I don't know anything. I was born twice, actually. And that's how the book starts. But what happens 30 years later, I became a famous, well-known designer. But in one day, my mother died in the same day when my child was born. And that just triggered all of the memories from my childhood. So as my daughter is now growing up, looking at her growing up, it triggers my memories. So the book is that, fulfilling this forgotten 9 years. And it's very, for me, I spent every day while I was writing it, it was about 4 or 5 weeks. And I was crying every day directly to the screen like this, you know. But it was a healing process, and it was very, very important for me and for my family also. And the book became an instant hit. It's already in its 4th edition. It's just a year since it came out. It's going to be published in this September in English. So if any of you would be interested in getting it, you can send me your addresses, so I can send it to you as a gift. I'll give you my email later on. So I mean, the book is not only important for me, but it has this cathartic quality in it, because a lot of people find themselves in the similar situation that I've been in. And I invited, because it's consisted of 47 short stories, I invited 47 different artists, friends of mine from the region, from different nationalities, and they all said yes, and they did the 47 different illustrations. So what is for me new that I didn't do it myself, but they just responded to it, and not one of those illustrators knew anything but this story that he was illustrating. They didn't read the whole book. So when they got their, piece to read the whole book, they were really. So that's actually it, and this is what I'm living by every day. You're as good as your latest project. It's very high bar that I put on myself. But now, after listening all of this private stuff and also my experiences, if you look at the works that I showed you at the beginning, I think definitely they are charged now with my own personal life story. And if you ever come across graphic design, I hope you will look at it differently now. So thank you very much.